Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Thanks for tuning in to our evening edition here tonight, June 7th, 2019. Let's get right into it, guys. Some solar wind speeds right now. Some of the lowest that we've seen in quite some time. Taking a look at it right now, it's at 279.7 kilometers per second. Forgive me, I don't have the exact date, but in 2017, we saw a record low of 269 kilometers per second. So we are very quiet. I talked about this the other night in our broadcast, that we are definitely showing some strong signals of solar minimum conditions, as I'm not mistaken. Either way, pretty low right now, and we're in June. And I saw this number climb up into the mid-4s, almost into the 5.0 region for the TCI. So I just thought naturally that as we got into the summer months, the sun hitting the planet at a different angle, this TCI would increase. And actually, it's done the opposite here in the past couple of days.
I just want you gotta tell people we were buffering, keeping back online, but we dropped.
Gotcha. Bear with us tonight, folks. Apparently we are having some technical difficulties as well. But I want to make mention that the TCI has dropped over the past several days. It's back near the 4.0 range once again. And just something to keep an eye on as we go into summer. You would think maybe it get a little bit warmer. In fact, it got warmer in April and May, and then it has declined since. So on top of that, let's take a look at our KP indices over here at the grandsolarminimum.com, the space weather section. Very quiet. KP indice of 1, 24-hour max of 2. And let's look at the SDO in motion. And at the end of this take here, you'll see a little bit of a possibility of a CME or a filament being released. But here at the right, here at the very end, Earth facing, we see a very minor spark here. And if I had to guess, I mean, we're talking, you know, A, B, possibly. But at this point, it's not been labeled as a solar flare or anything like that. Let me get the handy dandy arrow out so we can all be on the same page here. That's it. Watch this region right here. And as you see towards the end of this footage, we do have some sort of release. So we will have to wait for further reports to find out. And this is Earth facing. So whatever this is, whether it be a minor eruption of some sort, a plasma release, it does appear that this could possibly hit the Earth's magnetic field within the next 24 to 72 hours. And when you're looking at something like Earth facing and in the position that this was in, again, this was just worth mentioning, as right before we went on the broadcast, I kind of noticed this on the SDO. So we are kind of on a watch right now as far as any kind of seismic activity. It's possible events like these are the reasons why we see 7.5 and 8.0 earthquakes. So a lot to watch here. We will continue to watch this, but no sunspots to report, no major coronal holes. Like in the morning report, I was talking about this one right here that we could see late next week. The effects from these coronal holes will be here around the 9th, and we could see somewhere around the 15th possibility, 13th through the 15th to see the effects from that one. But other than that, there is nothing to report on, nothing on the eastern limb that looks like could be an issue or even concern. Again, no sunspots on the sun, just some very bright active regions, but nothing to be of concern until we just saw this release here. So we'll keep an eye on that, guys. Take a look at the rest of our sun. There's the missing info from the stereo B, but let's zoom out just a little bit. And like my other broadcast, this is typical solar minimum. Looking at this disk, we've all known that these sunspots show up very bright. And right now, we are looking at information that is telling us that we are at least possibly another 15 days or so away from any potential sunspot activity, unless something just happens to develop right before our eyes, which we've seen that before on the SDO several times. But right now, we are quiet, folks. And like I said, The solar wind speed of 279.7 kilometers per second. Let's see if it's updated at all since. It's jumping back and forth. Earlier, it was at 284. It dropped to 283, and then it down to 279. So again, we'll keep an eye on the solar wind speeds. We haven't seen this kind of solar wind speed this low, really. It's touched the 200s a few times in 18 and once or twice here in 19. But you know, to see the temperature, easy for me to say. To see the wind speeds drop that low, and they've been like that pretty much throughout the day. We'll see how long this will continue. Take a look at TSI information here as of May 29th, 2019. Looks like we're seeing a bit of an uptick, and when I say a bit, it's very slight, guys. TSI is a very, very, very small change on a day-to-day basis. Every once in a while you get a decent little dip by 0.5. And that's not that much, really. But looking at the grand scale of things, TSI slightly up, 1360.759. And we go back here to May 16th, where we've seen a peak of 1360.792. So not quite the 0.8 range. And I mentioned that because we've only seen TSI touch the 0.8s once or twice. We're usually in the 1360.65 range, somewhere, give or take a couple units. All right, let's get right into some world headlines. Unusually strong storm Miguel hits Spain, France. Guys, let me be honest with you. I want to see if there's an image in here of this storm in motion. The actual satellite imagery was absolutely astonishing. Here we go. Let's check this out. A huge storm. And everything in the satellite imagery says it all. So let's read and see what this bad boy did, or what they were expecting from this storm. Usually strong storm for this time of year is battering parts of Spain, France. On June 7th, the wind gusts up to 93 miles per hour. The storm was named Miguel on June 5th by the Spanish MET agency. This is the 23rd named storm of the 2018-2019 European windstorm season. Homes were damaged, trees were uprooted, coastal resorts deserted, and public transport disrupted as Miguel lashed northern Spain and continues towards the French coast. Almost the entire France is under some kind of severe weather warning, with 10 departments on orange alert. Flooding is likely as well as power outages, warned meteorologists across the region. Enhanced risk has been issued for North France, Benelux, into northwest Germany, with a threat of severe winds, torrential rainfall, large hail, and some tornado threat. A line of storms will develop along the front and rapidly push across the risk area from the southwest to the northeast direction in the afternoon hours into the evening. And once again, several maps detailing out what's happening with this storm. Thank you, watchers.news. I always want to call these guys weather.news. And maybe they should start a separate weather page that's called weather.news, because they do phenomenal work when they break out stats, show maps, and forecast and what's to come. Again, thanks out there to watchers.news. Keep up the good fight, my friends. All right, staying on Watchers, months worth of rain in 24 hours hits parts of the U.S. Gulf Coast. At least one person is killed. A month's worth of rain hit parts of Texas and Louisiana in just 24 hours on June 5th, 6th, causing flash flooding and leaving at least one person dead. At least 4 tornadoes touched down in Louisiana. Tropical moisture from the Gulf is also expected to fuel more rounds of rain through June 7th through the 9th and aggravate flash flooding across southeastern Texas and southwestern Louisiana. As much as 3 to 5 inches of rain could fall daily, and some areas may be hit with a foot or more of rain from this multi-day event. This is according to AccuWeather. On June 5th, Wharton and Palacios, Texas, picked up massive 8 inches of rain in less than 12 hours. Lafayette, Louisiana, is among the cities severely impacted by flooding on June 5th. The city set daily maximum rainfall record of 3.46 inches, breaking the old 2.4-inch record back in 1926. The 24-hour total for Lafayette, ending 1500 UTC, was 7.69 inches of rain. Heavy rains in Baton Rouge, Louisiana triggered flash flooding and prompted multiple water rescues by first responders. According to local TV station WBRZ, officials are blaming the flooding for at least one fatality so far. And that was done during a press conference. But folks, we've been talking about the Gulf Invest 91 pushing some tropical moisture into that region. And the flooding just continues. Luckily, this storm is now moving out of the eastern part of Texas and through New Orleans. It's coming towards New Orleans through the southern parts of Louisiana. And Mississippi is now dealing with this. Mobile, just north of you, Montgomery, Alabama, Birmingham, Huntsville, the Manchester, Tennessee area, Deckard, Winchester. You guys are looking at some shower activity. And then, of course, Knoxville. So this moisture right now is kind of at a minimal, but this particular front is expected to intensify overnight. And we'll get more into that as we get into the show. And speaking of, well, actually, let's talk about our friends up north. Alberta, spring snow flirts with major cities. Yeah, we're technically spring. The solstice for summer is the 21st of June. So we're 14 days away from summer, and we're talking about snow in Alberta. And thanks to our friends in Canada who made this I was aware today by one of our subscribers who lives in the area. I think it was a snarky reply to someone who was talking about warming all over. The 2019 temperatures remain, let's just say, roller coaster-ish. Take another swipe at Alberta into the weekend with a round of late season snow for ahead of parts of the province, including some that threatens to track very near to some major centers. Following that, a quick recovery to rain and thunder follows before temperatures rebound into next week. We take a look at what we may be seeing as far as the snow and much more spring appropriate outlook for the next week below. Just the fact that we're still talking about snow, and this was nothing that stuck. I mean, I get it. You know, we're not making a big issue about this, but just, hey, it's still snowing in parts of the world right now. It's supposed to be summer or close to it. Temperatures like this, why is that? And here I go. Start my connecting the dots, correlating. I think it has everything to do with this right here, the TCI. And the rest of the atmosphere continues to cool as well. DrRoySpencer.com. His information with the UAH that is reporting a temperature of 0.32. Yeah, 0.32 degrees Celsius above baseline, dropping 0.12 degrees Celsius for the month of May. Again, we're heading into summer, and the global temperature actually decreased across the globe. But just something worthy to mention here as far as our weather headlines. You know, right now, it's a lot of the same everywhere. Flooding, and tornadoes and flooding. So I'm just trying to sprinkle in a couple things that might be different from flooding. And strangely enough, I'm still coming across cold temperatures and snowfall. There we go. Look at this. Good Lord. Banff. You're looking at least 5 inches of snow. Jasper, same thing. Hinton, you're just on the outer edges of a light dusting. Ridiculous. And then after that, we get thunderstorms. I do believe many of us are learning about the grand solar minimum as well. Some of you are well versed. Some of you know a lot about this topic. But for those of you who are kind of new to this, part of the things about grand solar minimum is the wild temperature swings, the wild range of weather. It's up and down. Right now, I've been watching the high pressure systems out there near Greenland over the past several days, and there is a bit of a blocking situation going on, which is going to heat up Alaska and bring cooler temperatures to the Northeast, the Midwest, the Northwest, and some of the northern plain states as well. So when you're thinking about Alaska in summertime, you know, maybe you do think it's going to be a little bit warmer, but you don't think about, because it's warm in Alaska, it's causing other parts of the United States to receive cooler than average weather. And I remember them saying something about June and July might be getting a little bit warmer. That may be, but I don't know how long this particular weather is going to stick around. We'll get to the forecast here in a little bit, but just interesting that we're still talking about snowflakes and cold temperatures. In fact, when I show you the map here during our weather segment, there is some cold warnings out there, believe it or not. Major floods hit Libya. Severe damage reported. 4 people killed and 2,500 have been displaced. Rain started on May 28th and intensified on June 2nd. So they got a whole 5 days worth of rain, and then it got really big. The country's southwestern municipality of Gat has been severely affected, including Sililia, Talala, Gat, Albakat, Saya, Alfawat, Al-Sharqiya, Al-Sinya. Yeah, I was just feeling cute tonight and thought I'd try to pronounce these. The rainfall and thunderstorm are expected to continue decreasing and intensifying in the coming days. So, in other words, after that word salad there, the intensity is going to come down a little bit here from the future on. But thank God. We've already seen floodwaters vary between 1.6 to 6.5 feet, depending on the area. 70% of the municipality were flooded, causing severe damage to infrastructure, houses, and farmland, leaving towns of Gat without power and water. The Gat Hospital was partially flooded. Service provision has been affected. The official exam for elementary and middle school scheduled for next week has been postponed. There is a risk of running out of fuel and domestic commodities due to the infrastructure damage. The airport does remain operational. Libya. So, you know, this looks familiar right here in our own backyard. No different, folks. No different from parts of Mississippi and Arkansas to parts of Libya. Except when they talk about having fuel shortages, it's because they're in a little bit more remote of an area than, say, Arkansas. So, I mean, obviously there's those that are different and significant, but when you look at the landscape, it's hard to tell if we're looking at Mississippi, or if we're looking at some foreign country overseas. I mean, this is a familiar sight that we have here in our own backyard. It's just unfortunate to see it to continue to spread all over the world like it has. And I'll tell you something, this year, 2019, it just feels like this weather has just jumped out and just acting the fool. Really. I don't think anybody expected such rapid changes in the landscape in certain parts of the world. And it's affecting everything from transportation of goods to the even planting of goods. And we'll get more into that as well. Severe dust storm and lightning claim 19 lives and leave up to 50 injured in Uttar Pradesh, India. And we talk about these folks quite a bit, especially with the heat wave they got coming over there, which, by the way, some severe heat. From what I understand, temperatures will exceed 130 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'll have to get you some more information on that as well. But here we have a story talking about UP Relief Commissioner said 6 people has died, 3 in Atal and 3 in Kasanji. I think that's how you say it. 41 people were injured as well. Officials said these storms downed trees, walls, killing both people and farm animals. The long dry spell and hot weather conditions increasing the surface temperature combined with unusually high western disturbance and cyclonic activity have contributed to this, and thunderstorms in the season were not unusual, News Nation's reports. This brought some relief from intense heat wave with temperatures dipping in North India. So this storm was kind of welcome, but kind of not. At the time that we saw, this storm has claimed the lives of 19 people. And I want to say hello to folks out there in the chat. Matt Bros from Nebraska, good to see you out there, bud. Brad, Thor, how you doing? Nick, let's see who else is out here. Jake Green, hello, how you doing? Matt, I see I already said hello to him. And, of course, there's Mari, Concerned Canadian. Glad to see you here. Thor, thank you very much for that super chat, you kind sir. Like Ian, we will just take it towards the kitten. Water's hot around Florida, praying no Cat 5 hurricanes. Well, here's what I'll have to say to that, guys. I'm glad you mentioned it because I see a lot of people on the YouTube trying to hype up the hurricane season. And I think people like ourselves and Joe Bastardi, who have brought this point up about, and I'm sure you guys have seen Starman on Twitter talk about this too. But here recently, Mari's done some more work for me on this. And it appears that during El Niños, we see less intense hurricanes. And a lot of that has to do with the wind shear that is involved during El Niños versus La Niñas. Less wind shear obviously is favorable for hurricanes, and the more wind shear we have, the better chance we have to breaking the storm up before it hits landfall. So I don't think, the waters are warm. There is a chance for some action down there in the Gulf. I think if we're going to see storms make landfall, I'll bet the farm that they go through the Gulf. But at this point, and I'm not a weather forecaster, but I don't think we should read into the hype just yet. It is June 7th, and Joe Bastardi, and by the way, I wanted to tell everybody, I shared a link on the Grand Solar Minimum social, the news feed there on the community news feed, GSM community news feed. I shared a video of Weather Bell's daily update, and they also mentioned this the other day too, how really quiet so far the tropics are. And not just here in the Atlantic or the Gulf, but all over the world, in the Western Pacific, everywhere. So, but good to see all you in the chat. Again, we'll leave the links and stuff in the description. Guys, stick around. We will be right back with a little bit of small segment of climate news. Don't go anywhere.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.
All right, so we're back, and not a lot to talk about tonight on the climate news part of this show. For one, I think the days of debating the ignorance of some policymakers on the other side, I think we've got the point across. So I want to try to scale back on some of that and focus on some of these things that are being done under our noses but not getting much attention. This is one of them. Glacier National City quietly removes its Gone by 2020 signs. Glaciers appear to be growing, not melting in recent years. Founder Lysander Spooner University, May 30th, 2019, Mary, Montana. Officials at a Glacier National Park have begun quietly removing and altering signs and government literature which told visitors that the park glaciers were all expected to disappear either by 2020 or 2030. In recent years, the National Park Service prominently featured brochures, signs, films which boldly proclaimed that all glaciers at the GNP were melting away rapidly. But now officials at GNP seem to be scrambling to hide or replace their previous hysterical claims. This is great, guys. Teams from Lysander Spooner University visiting the park each September have noted that the GNP's most famous glaciers, such as the Grinnell Glacier and the Jackson Glacier, appear to have been growing, not shrinking, since about 2010. The Jackson Glacier, easily seen from the Going to the Sun Highway, may have grown as much as 25% or more over the past decade. The main centerpiece visitor center, St. Mary's, near the east boundary, is a large three-dimensional diorama showing lights going out as the glaciers disappear. Visitors press a button to see the diorama lit up like a Christmas tree in 1850. then showing fewer lights until the diorama goes completely dark. As recently as September 2018, this displayed a sign saying GNP glaciers were expected to disappear completely by 2020. This is the video 2 years ago. You guys can click on that and watch that. But at some point during the past winter, as the visitor center was closed to the public, workers replaced the sign "Gone by 2020" engraving with a new sign indicating that glaciers will disappear in future generations. Well done, GNP. Brilliant work you've done there. This is definitely, we used to have the A-hole of the week segment. Now we have the Mr. Obvious of the week. And it's got to be this park right here. I mean, guys, this is getting embarrassing. Joe Biden is actually supporting a climate change plan that goes against what the Green Deal is. So now you've got some disconnect within the own party of the Democrats on what to support, how to spend the money, where is it going. And then you find articles like this where we have national parks that are removing "Goodbye to the Glaciers" signs and replacing them with ridiculous things like "The glaciers will disappear within generations." Thank you, Mr. Obvious. We all know these glaciers grow and retreat, grow and retreat. The fact that we've actually monitored them growing since 2010, I think a 9-year observation is enough proof, if you ask me. And I think these people are embarrassed. And the fact that they're going around and removing these signs and not putting a date on it, I mean, how much more has to happen before people start to realize that this consensus climate science is not the consensus anymore? If this park is removing signs of glaciers disappearing within a year, it's because they know otherwise. It has nothing to do with tourism or anything like that, or fear factor. They know that they would look absolutely ridiculous with that sign sitting up in their park, especially next winter. And we ain't seen nothing yet. And I'm confident about that because each year I've been doing this research, I was told a timeline when things would start to decline. And they have. And they have gotten worse. 16, 17, 18, now this year. Like I said, this year has jumped up about 6 or 7 levels compared to last year when it came to the cold, the floods, the late planting. Folks, I got some numbers for you to show you about planting. You're not going to believe. Some of it's getting better, some of it's just as bad. All right, let's move along here. New global warming model highlights strong impact of social learning. Yeah. A new climate modeling approach suggests that social process has strongly affected global warming predictions, and migration efforts should account for this influence. Thomas Bury, the Universities of Waterloo in Canada, and colleagues present these findings in the PLOS computational biology. Now, human behaviors influence a wide range of complex systems, including ecosystems, social networks, and the climate. Moreover, these systems impact human behavior, creating a feedback loop. Human behavior is a driver of the climate, but climate models often neglect how climate change, in turn, affects human behavior. In an effort to improve climate change predictions, Berry and colleagues developed a mathematical model that captures features of social and climate systems, while also incorporating how climate change and migration efforts impact human behavior. The researchers then used the model to investigate how human behavior might influence climate change dynamics. Their analysis suggests that a rate at which people learn about climate mitigation strategies via social interactions, such as hearing that a friend bought a hybrid car, or strongly influences climate outcome. Social learning takes time, so plausible values of this rate alone could raise warming predictions by over a degree Celsius. I own a hybrid, but it's because I want to save money on gas. I don't believe that I'm making a difference on climate change. It's interesting, though, to see this article. This reminds me of, well, learned behavior. So we have to learn this. And if we had to learn it, and this is probably one of the things I live by, but if you can learn something, you can unlearn it. But like learning, it takes time. And it's been a 30-year brainwash for folks here in this global warming. I don't know what you want to call it anymore. It's falling apart. The wheels are falling off, guys. People are not falling for it. The government wants to change how we do our climate review policies. Yeah, I just hope that if we do question the review policy and how we do things, I only hope that we actually get a full disclosure on the science that needs to be investigated. I was reviewing something the other day, article, friend of ours, the Grand Solar Minimum channel, Penelope, she does a lot of Facebook stuff for us. Facework. Anywho, shared an article about whistleblowers. And I was reading along this article about how we're supposed to trust agencies like the IPCC. And one thing that I found interesting about that is that the IPCC, when determining global warming, man-made climate change, and all of that, the sun was brought up. And the IPCC and their scientists believe that the sun has nothing to do or has not enough influence on our climate worthy of an investigation. You hear that? An investigation, not just worthy of consideration, but these scientists that are on the IPCC panel are telling us that the sun's not even worth the investigation. I find that hard to believe. When you, and this is where I'm gonna get, day and night obvious stuff here, but this is where you have to sit and think to yourself, okay, so the sun doesn't have enough influence on the climate, not even worth an investigation. Here's the cookie cutter example I was going to use. Daytime, nighttime. Temperatures can drop 10, 20, 30, 40 degrees sometimes without sunlight. So to me, I feel like that alone is enough to have an investigation about the role of the sun on our climate. Hey, I'm not saying that man doesn't have an impact on climate or the air we breathe. I'm saying that the amount that man actually has as far as involvement with climate change and the severities, we're being spoon-fed a bunch of lies. We don't have the kind of impact that a lot of these people want you to believe. And the people that want you to believe this are the same people who stand to lose millions, if not billions of dollars, research dollars for the CO2 theory. And that's why this lie is because for 30 years now, if the mainstream media reports that consensus science was wrong, how big of a blow is that going to be for the whole trust factor? It's going to be a mess. And that's why they're fighting so hard to kind of keep this lie alive. It's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but it sure looks that way, if you ask me. Guys, hang on for a second. We'll be right back, and we'll get into our weather segment. Plus, I have a crop update as well. Stick around.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.
All right, so let's check out a couple of weather headlines first. Officials still keeping a watchful eye on a threatened Arkansas levee. Yes, we are. Authorities are keeping an eye on a threatened Lolly levee in central Arkansas. At least one person was killed in flooding in Baton Rouge. A tornado flipped cars in the hospital parking garage in Baton Rouge as well. More than 20 high water rescues were performed alone in Oklahoma City. And let's not forget them, guys. They had a lot of flooding in Tulsa as well. Officials in central Arkansas continue to keep a wary eye on the Lolly levee Friday, which was still at risk of breaching. The Lolly levee continues to hold back the floodwaters of the Arkansas River. City of Conway tweeted Friday evening, "She won't quit, neither will we." And you got to admire their high spirits right now. We've showed you guys footage of Mississippi and the Delta, how they've been affected with flood waters right now. And here is another part of the country that is facing similar situations. At a press conference earlier in the day, Faulkner County Judge Jim Baker said, "I guess by the grace of God, it's still holding." So these folks are on very super edge right now by the seat of their pants. And just taking a look here, people are on standby, ready to do what they have to do to try to prevent these. Look, oh my goodness. I mean, that's it, folks. That's all the water that's separating this levee here. So, National Weather Service reported Friday that 14 campers and 2 dogs had to be rescued along the Buffalo River in Searcy County at Grinders Ferry. On Thursday, deadly flooding and damaging storms ripped through Baton Rouge. We unfortunately had confirmed a fatality associated with the weather's experienced. This was according to the mayor. Officers with Baton Rouge Police Department responded to a pickup truck stalled in floodwaters. The driver, which I will not name at this time, had attempted to get out of the truck and was taken to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. Unfortunately, that person did not survive. A submerging vehicle with a woman inside prompted 3 Baton Rouge firefighters to swim after the sedan, break a car door window, and rescue the woman, who was unharmed in the incident. Amazing. Broome said officials were caught off guard by the weather. Well, we need to get them the link to our channel, because I'm pretty sure we were talking and very concerned for this region of the country just a couple of live shows back. Folks, it is unfortunate that anybody is admitting that statement right there, that they're not prepared for the weather. I think if you've been paying attention to this channel and other channels like us, I think it's quite clear. We've had some crazy weather. And in every broadcast that I've done, I've been able to tell you guys about, I've never seen this before. This has never happened. It's never been this bad. It's obvious. And just like the story here about the glacier signs disappearing, because what was being predicted is not happening. We've been talking about solar cycles and the effect on the climate. And I think there's a lot of strong evidence that supports what we're talking about here. And I think that's the reason why there's a lot of channels out there that are still trying to get this message across, because we're bringing to light the new research that's out that connects the dots with these solar cycles and this climate situation. If anything, if we're blowing a whistle here, the grand solar minimum is we're tired of our government putting their hands in our pockets and telling us it's for the cause of saving the world. That's the worst part. Taking a look at some weather updates here for the rest of this week. We're going to get a bunch of rain in the southeast over the next several days. Flash flooding is possible through early next week in the deep south to the Carolinas and Virginia. This rain could be too much of a good thing for areas in a drought. In other words, we're talking about flash flooding could happen very, very rapidly. Here we see the maps. South Carolina, parts of North Carolina and South Carolina could locally get over a foot of rain. Parts along the panhandle of Florida also looking at 3 to 5 inches of rain. Mobile, Alabama, just north of there, looking at possibly 8 inches locally. Parts of Middle Tennessee getting 2 to 3 inches of rain. Some spots could locally get up to 4 inches. So we've had floods in the northern plains, the Midwest, the Southwest, and now the Southeast. Here's the flood alerts right now currently. Louisville, Kentucky, Memphis, Tennessee, northeastern Alabama, almost the entire panhandle of Florida, and parts of North Carolina near Charlotte and the South Carolina border. This weekend, the highest threat of flash flooding will be in the Piedmont and western North Carolina, upstate South Carolina, North Georgia. Local flash flooding is also possible from Kentucky, Middle Tennessee, Alabama, North Florida into eastern Carolinas, which we just pretty much clarified that. Many of these areas were seared by a Memorial Day weekend heat wave that set all-time high May temperature records. Now, that's impressive to see as well, because we all know that we saw temperatures drop globally, and to see how cool it was in the beginning of May. Let's just say that we didn't even have this heat wave in the southeast. That had to possibly participate in a few degrees Celsius, or maybe 0.5 degrees Celsius warming or cooling, either way. But still, my point is we saw a very chilly May for the most part in the United States, met with this heat wave at the end of the month. But now some rain on the way to kind of relieve that situation. Since Wednesday morning, here's some notable rain totals in the south from this event. According to NOAA, Midfield, Texas, 14 inches. Cameron Prairie National Wildlife Refuge in Louisiana, 12.85 inches. Baton Rouge, almost 9 inches. Panama City, Tyndall Air Force Base, 6.13 inches of rain. And Fort Smith, Arkansas, 3.85 inches of rain. Let's go ahead, while we're talking about all this rain, before we head over to the maps. Let's give you guys a little crop update. We were talking about some severe conditions a few days ago. Previous year for Ohio, 89% of the corn was planted at this point. Previous week, 22% was planted. As of June 2nd, we have 33% planted. So we have, according to this report, as of today, we have 1 day to get to the 90% 5-year average. So that's not going to happen. Ohio, sorry, not going to happen. Another region that's not going to happen in South Dakota. It has seen some increasing good news. Last week we had 25% of the corn in the ground. This week, 44%, getting a little bit closer, but still, at this point, we are going to fall about 44% short of planting corn in this region. Texas, you're getting close to normal back there. Your guys' temperatures are heating up. You're getting about, things are trying to wind down, but for the most part, you're sitting at 96%. You're actually above your 5-year average. So there's good news in some places. Wisconsin, 58% is in the ground right now. Last week we had 46. 5-year average, 91%. Last year this time we were at 88%, so we're down 30%. 18 states are down right now almost 30%. Okay? And these states planted 92% last year. So 18 states are 30% lower this year than they were last year. And that was reporting at a 92%. I want to see Iowa because there's a lot more rain heading back in that area. And we're getting a little bit closer here in Iowa. 80% is in the ground for corn. 99% is the 5-year average. This is still a significant amount. Tomorrow is the deadline, June 8th, for most people to have their corn in the ground. Now, I showed you numbers where we saw corn that's planted, and here's the corn that's emerged, and this is terrible in some states. Colorado, you're at 49%. Last week, it was at 25%, so a significant jump. But your 5-year average is 73%. This year, last year, this time, you're looking at 70% was planted, so we're already below that. We're 21% low. Illinois is gross. It is so unfortunate what's happening out there. 32% is emerged. The corn in Illinois, 32% of the 45% that's planted has emerged. Previous week was 20% emerged. Their 5-year average is 91, folks. They're not going to have a healthy corn crop this year. Same story in Indiana. They've planted 31% of 94% average, 5-year average. 31%. It only went up 9% for a week. Right now, 18% of that corn has emerged. Last year, this time was 88%. 88%. How can you not see the difference from year to year? 58% in Iowa right now as corn has emerged, as opposed to last year, 89%. 60% in Kansas emerged, as opposed to last year's 89%, which was above the 5-year average, I will add. I mean, Minnesota, Montana, Missouri, all down. Michigan. Guys, I mean, I'm not trying to be a downer here, but this is pretty serious stuff. And I think it's time that we really start paying attention. And I every broadcast, every week, I will have this up. Soybeans. This is even worse, if you ask me. Some of these numbers are just scary because a lot of these states that are going to be too late to plant corn are got to switch to soybeans. Indiana, you're looking at 17% of your soybeans planted right now, and 9% of that has emerged from the ground. Unreal. 80% was planted this time. I'm sorry. 93% this time last year. 77% of that has emerged from the ground. Soybean numbers, folks. Ohio, even worse. 18% has been planted to a mere 9% that has actually starting to emerge from the ground. Up 5% from 4% last week in Ohio. South Dakota, last week you were at 0. You had 0 soybeans planted. Or I'm sorry, emerging. You had 6% planted. This week you have 14% on an 82% 5-year average. And last year this time we were sitting at 83%. Right now, 2% of that 14% you've planted is showing up. Last year this time, 50% had emerged from the ground. Everything is dramatically... Tennessee! Mari, I hate to be that guy, but where is the one spot that I feel like if we ever have to...
You always say Tennessee.
Southern Tennessee, Middle Tennessee. Right now, their soybean crop is a little bit better looking and in better shape than most. And same with their corn crop. Tennessee right now has got 95% planted, and 88% of that has emerged from the ground. So places like Tennessee and Texas, you're going to see a decent... North Carolina's looking good so far. Nebraska, believe it or not, you're behind, but you're not out by any means. Kansas, you've taken a hit too, but you're not out of the race either. Soybeans, man, that's a different story. But so far, from what I'm seeing, Southern Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, looks like we're going to be okay for the crops. But is that going to be enough to carry the country, the industry? That's scary, guys. I can only name you 2 states right now that are in good shape for crops. 3 tops. 3 states. The rest have a lot of work to do. 2.1 days of suitable field work for Ohio. That sounds about right, considering what they have in the ground. So it's getting a little bit better. Iowa, part of the reason, I mean, see, this is what confuses me. I look at this chart here for Iowa. Soybeans, 41%, 17% have grown. Corn, they've got a lot in the ground, but only 58% of it is peeking through. And they're able to do that on 1.3 days of field work? Something's not adding up here. my opinion. South Dakota, looks like you're getting better as far as drying out. Same with North Dakota. Kansas, hit or miss. Oklahoma says you have 3.3 days of field work. Where? Last I checked, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, parts of southeastern Oklahoma have been flooded out. 5.7 days of field work available for the state of Arkansas. I mean, somebody, I don't know. Maybe this map's not, I mean, it does say June 2nd, but still. That's just hard to believe with the problems we're having with the Here's another one. 6.7 days of working in the field. Tennessee, 6.3. That's the only data that I think is accurate. And North Carolina is at 6.3. These numbers will probably change, especially with that storm that's heading our way. So much of the country for the first week of June is starting to see improvements for planting crops. I mean, God forbid it's June 9th, June 7th, and we're still trying to plant corn. Another graph here Mari threw at me talks about insurances and politics, but just a sign here of where we are. I think this graph also shows us where we are. Look at Illinois' 2019 numbers, 45% in the ground, the average at 100%. Look how far away that line is, guys. That's super significant. So is Indiana. Iowa, not so much. Kansas, that's hard to believe. Kentucky, you're in decent shape. Michigan, hell no. Minnesota, not terrible, but not good. North Dakota's getting better. Ohio, not so much. I know I got a couple knuckleheads out there that would tell me otherwise, but the data doesn't lie, right? South Dakota, definitely way off. Tennessee, like I said, the best state for crops right now in the United States is Tennessee. I don't want to give away my secret for where I'm going because this area is going to fill up fast because I think it's going to be obvious you're going to want to be in this region. Southern Tennessee, northern Alabama, northern Georgia, northern Mississippi. I wouldn't want to be too close to the Gulf Coast. Just saying. I think northern Alabama is a perfect distance from the coast, if you ask me. But just some interesting numbers I wanted to show you guys before we get into the GFS outlook. That's temperatures. Let's go with the moisture. It's already showing us for tomorrow. Southeast getting plenty of rain. The majority of us getting 2-3 inches of rain. This is going to be around for most of the weekend. Kind of picks up. Look at that, guys. Idaho. Yeah, that's snow showers. Montana, still snow. Another low pressure system forming behind this one that's drowning, and I mean drowning the southeast as it moves slowly up the east coast. Tennessee, Ohio, Indiana getting bouts of heavy rain, off and on showers. By Monday, we will see this low pressure system still kind of hanging around and rain, heavy rain throughout the Great Lakes of Ohio, Michigan, and near western New York. Also a system that is taking place in Texas. More heavy rain to the central part of Texas towards Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, and then back towards New Mexico. But this rain here in the Northeast really gets intense, guys. Think about this. This system has been churning out rain starting today in the Southeast through Sunday, moving up towards slowly to the Northeast by Tuesday, bringing heavy rain to the region. And by the 12th, the Northeast will be rain-free, but the Southeast will start to see more moisture develop behind it. And again, more moisture will build back up in the same areas that we just seen in the East Coast, Ohio, Indiana, into the Northeast through the 14th, and then right on cue with another low pressure system right behind it in Texas. That quickly fades away, but then reemerges by the middle of the month. And this is probably about the part where I'd like to say is where we can consider the accuracy. So June 16th, we're looking at dry weather across the southeast, the middle part of the country. Before that, though, showers off and on, rain. The persistent rain is going to be more or less, though, in the Atlantic states, the southeast, the northeast, and the Midwest, Ohio, Pennsylvania, you guys might have some scattered showers. Thank God. Bare minimal rain systems moving through. Now, except here on the 15th, we might see significant showers in the northern plains throughout parts of Nebraska and into Kansas. But looking out past the 15th and the 16th, we do start to see some more activity developing in areas that are already flooded out and do not need any more excess rain. In fact, as we go into the future, Monday, June 17th, pretty nasty system moving across the Plains states through Oklahoma, Kansas, into Missouri, parts of Arkansas. I mean, let's just face it, folks. If you live from Missouri on eastward into the northeast and the southeast, we are looking at a very active and wet pattern, which at this point, as long as it's not just hovering over the mid-Atlantic states over and over and over again, I think a lot of folks are okay with the rain that we're starting to receive now in the Midwest. But again, it just feels like we're getting hit in parts at a time. The northern plains, then the central plains, then the Midwest, and then the Southwest, and then the South, and the Southeast. And then it moves up to the East Coast, through the Ohio Valley of Pennsylvania, into the Northeast. It's like slowly but surely, this spring has had plenty of rain to go around for everyone. Unreal. And we're still talking about snow chances in early June, all the way through the 9th. Finally, GFS is indicating by the 10th of June, 11th of June, we should not even say the S word. Not even sleet, according to this futurecast here. It's about damn time. But we talked about this earlier today, Mari and I. We went from winter to a sort of spring. A couple of days it felt like spring, and it was kind of just nasty, raw, and cold. And now it's 78 degrees outside. Warm, humid. It's like, bam, switch seasons without going through another. Taking a look at our watch maps tonight. We'll bring up the cold weather news. Oh, yeah. Chilly, then warm. Freeze warning. Look at this. Freeze warning is in parts Elko, Nevada, 2 a.m. to 9 a.m. Means sub-freezing temperatures are likely or imminent. Quite a bit freeze warning out there, folks, for June 9th. Yeah. Typical flood warnings, flood watches across most of Kentucky, western Tennessee, panhandle of Florida, which we already kind of went away. We've got some air quality issues in Texas. I'll have to look into that and see if we have any reports on fires that are kind of going out of control. According to this map here, we have severe thunderstorm watches across the northern parts of the United States, the northern plains. I am not currently seeing that. Oh, here we go. Yep. So Rapid City, Buffalo, South Dakota. We are all under North Dakota. You guys are under severe thunderstorm watches. Pretty decent amount of activity. A little bit of lightning out here. So let's take a closer look and see how intense some of this lightning will be. Going to give you guys a shout out as we hit the road here. Bison, heads up. You're looking at some strong thunderstorms heading your way. Lemon as well. Faith, South Dakota, probably here in the next couple hours or so. Also curious to see how the weather is shaping up in your neck of the woods out there in the chat as well. If you guys want to drop a little temperature and location, I'll be more than happy to read that off across the United States or across the world, at that matter. But back to Mike's weather page. Again, not a lot of action tonight. Severe weather as far as that goes. Tornado watches. We just showed you North Dakota, South Dakota, parts of southeast Montana as well. And here is the weather map tonight. We're seeing where the biggest chance of severe weather. Guys, and this is what I've learned over the past several days. When they give us these 3 shades of colors, pay attention to that darkest shade. And I'm talking about the yellows and the oranges and the reds. They have been spot on, dead on, with severe weather when predicting it like this. When they are talking about the areas that are extreme risk, moderate risk, high risk, pay attention. Get inside. I've seen a lot of footage this year for people capturing tornadoes and all these wind events, and these people are right outside, right in the face of the storm. That whatever you do, please just be safe about how you guys gather footage from these storms that we see on a daily basis. Other than that, guys, this is the outlook for tomorrow. Actually, this is right now as well, but these are good from Saturday until Sunday. So the same region is going to see the continuance. Nebraska, Kansas, near Norton, Kansas, Kearney, Nebraska, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, parts of Tennessee, Nashville, Knoxville, Southern Kentucky. You guys are going to see an elevated risk for severe heavy rain and flash flooding is a possibility as well in these areas shaded in red. And for the evening here, I'd like to bring up Mari to say hello to everybody in the chat tonight. Mari is my lovely producer. She edits all of our video content and does a lot with the social media on Facebook, t-shirt sales, you name it. She is just one busy lady, and she's the person you guys have been chatting with for the most part in the chat tonight. Mari, how you doing?
I'm doing fabulous, Jake. Thank you. What a lovely introduction to myself here.
Well,
I'm just touched.
You do a great job for this channel.
Lovely.
Of course you are.
Wow. We have a busy time in the chat right now. I want to thank the people who did super chats. Thor, you already thanked him. He put, thank you, Jake and Mari, your work is important. We had Central Florida Prepper did a super chat, and Matt Bros did a super chat. Very, very humbled by you guys' support. Thank you very much. Also, we had a couple Patreons stop by and say hello. So Dustin and Grizzly. I haven't seen Grizzly in a long time. He said he may not always be here, but we're in his heart through Patreon. So thank you again for your support. Let's see, a couple comments. We have a lot of farmers in talking about what they're doing in the chat, Jake. I don't know if you've noticed.
I haven't had a chance to really look through.
It's good to see people in the agriculture industry sharing what's going on in their area. Very important, because it's hard to get a clear picture of what exactly is going on. And this is a worldwide struggle that everyone is dealing with. So the more information we can piece together, the better. So thank you for being here. Matthew M said he flew over Ohio today, and it doesn't look good from the air. You can see where the flooding has taken its toll on the land.
And the tornado damage as well, I'm sure.
And then we got Farmer Matt, and he put, I planted 1,200 acres in 4 days in Illinois with 16-row planter. So thank you for all your hard work and what you do. I hope that crop is very successful. Hope the weather holds out. Jake, I didn't pay attention to your weather report. Sorry.
Well, and I, one thing I want to add too, with the farmers being in our chat, guys, please stick around. Come back to this channel. Give us updates, because sometimes some of the stuff that we read off doesn't really seem to make sense. So it's always good to have clarification from people who are actually living in these areas, that are actually in the fields doing the work. I know I talk to Matt Bros a lot. And man, there's a lot of farmers that are way behind. They're in threat of losing everything right now. So when I look at stats and it says Nebraska's got 80% in the ground, I must be talking to the guy that's part of that 80%, because I mean, from what he's saying, there's not a lot of farmers out there that's having a lot of luck right now. So it's important that we hear feedback from our farmer viewers.
It's heartbreaking for me to read the stories online. I recently shared on Facebook and Twitter a story of a farmer in Canada that he's saying in his 54 years of farming, this is the worst year he's ever experienced.
Who are you talking about?
That article that I shared the other day, and about the Canada farmer and his family. Another
person saying it's the worst ever. Matt's father, who also is a farmer, he got into farming business in the 60s, and he said he's never seen it like this ever.
Yeah, we have a few truckers who take the hauls from these farms and truck them into the different locations. They're seeing prices raise. They're hearing the rumors of, I believe one person in the chat said a $5 increase on ethanol. I think. I don't know.
That would make sense with all the corn that we've not planted.
Pretty quick. And then people are discussing, like, if that corn isn't used, well, if people need that for food ethanol is sort of going to be a thing of the past as well,
Oof.
depending on how these crops go. We had New Beginnings 101, 3-liter milk in Australia used to cost $3. She went in yesterday and had signs saying that there was a shortage, and the only milk available was $4.45 for a 2-liter, or $5.90 for a 3-liter. I've heard reports on various social media outlets, things like butter are seeing an increase already as well. Concerned Canadian, I just made a comment about all your Canadian coverage. He's very appreciative that you're making him blush.
Hey, you're our brothers in the north, man. We got to look out for each other.
I believe that's Minnesota farm trucker put low corn means high gas, high food prices, turkey beef, everything. So, and then Daniel, actually it was Daniel Snedden put, being mentally prepared is your main defense in the coming troubled times. Knowledge is for providing what you need to live in in next line. Put your plan on paper and review it. And that is, knowledge is your control, and it'll help you from being fearful of the future. You equip yourself with knowledge and be prepared the best you can, and just hope for the best.
That's it.
And then one last one, Matt Bros, he said something, and he said the biggest weapon of all, food and water.
Yeah.
You know, think about it.
Hey guys, and also remember this: the CEO and owner of Amazon bought out the largest food organic company in wholesale foods. Was that what it was? Whole Foods, something like that. Bought them. And when you're already the richest man around, now you're controlling food prices. I mean, folks, this is scary. Believe it or not, there's actually some folk out there who are looking to cash in on these unfortunate situations with our food and our crops. And I got to be honest with you, my heart breaks for the agriculture part of our economy. My heart breaks, and there is no way in my mind. I guess I'm just too weak of a human, but I just can't see cashing in on a situation as bad as it could get. And again, next year, 2019 into 2020's winter into the spring, buckle up, folks. It's only going to get worse. Marty, do you have anything else before we head out?
No, just thank you again very much for spending your time with us in the chat. It's always a pleasure. And when's our next show, Jake?
I believe Monday for sure, but we might even pop in with maybe a Saturday night type special where I kind of pop in the chat. We talk about a couple things and take questions and stuff like that. So
we're talking about an afternoon show sometime, and we're going to continue on with the solar updates as well.
Solar updates have been started back up again. We are finally in a position where this channel can now start giving you guys daily updates in the morning, as well as these hour-long programs for a complete news of the Grand Solar Minimum, what's going on around the world. And then, of course, Mari breaks these down into 3 parts. And you know, some folks are like, well, what's the point of that? Well, not all of you have the time to sit down and listen to this entire broadcast an hour at a time. So Mari has done an excellent job of breaking it up into 3 parts where everyone can kind of pick their favorite part and listen to it at that time and come back later and maybe catch the other 2 parts of what they didn't hear. And again, I get it. A lot of people are busy out there. Some of us out there have a very busy schedule during the day and can't get the whole hour in. When you get pieces of it, that's just as good. And it's probably a little easier to share as well. But also, guys, please continue to check out our website, thegrandsolarminimum.com. That is thegrandsolarminimum.com. We've also included our very own Starman solar observations. We put his Twitter feed up here. Guys, I don't know anybody in the community that is as dedicated to getting the message out and educating people, not making fun of them if they don't know, but educating folks, helping them understand. I don't know anybody. There's a lot of us that think like this person, but I don't know anyone as dedicated as this person in trying to get this message out, and with truth and integrity and without sensationalism. So I thank you, David, and I think this pays tribute to your work and your efforts. So if anyone has not been on Twitter, make sure you follow David Birch, our very own star man here. That's going to do it for us tonight, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in to the evening edition of the Grand Solar Minimum. We will talk soon, folks.